Zaldrizes buzdaris gosdau.
Hey, if you'll notice, literally as soon as House of the Dragon Season 1 ended, the shadow ban is back in effect on my channel. If you don't believe me, go into incognito mode, type in House of the Dragon, and you'll notice none of my videos show up. I'm doing that right now. I'm showing you on screen. So please, in short, help me combat that by doing 3 things. 1, slapping a like on this video if you enjoy it, and then also consider subscribing, because ultimately, even though YouTube doesn't list my videos in their algorithm, they'll eventually be forced to have to do it because my subscriber count and view count will continue to go up. And then lastly, if you can slap a like and subscribe and you want to take it a step further, consider checking out my Patreon. Ultimately, once my Patreon becomes large enough, like when I start making between $100 to $1,500 a month, I will no longer have to rely on YouTube's ad revenue, and I can pretty much upload whatever I wanted to because I'm, more dependent on my Patreon. So please consider checking that out, joining for a few bucks, and there's about 20 episodes of a podcast that I made called Leaks and Lore, and in a most recent episode, I started talking a little bit about my childhood and my life story. So if you want to take it that third step further, just consider joining my Patreon. It's linked down below in the description. But if you can't do any of that, thank you so much for watching, and let's jump into it. Okay, we've got House of the Dragon news piling up. Well, kinda. The first thing I want to talk about is Season 2. That's the biggest thing that's on my mind, and I'm sure if you're watching this video, it's probably the biggest thing on your mind. Now, before we even get into the timeline thing of how long it'll take, we have to realize, okay, that they built the entirety of the Leavesden studio with those massive green screens, everything that we see in the inside of the episode, all those cool things that allow the show to be shot less on location and more in the studio. Those were meant to make it, yes, easier for filming, but also ultimately to speed up the process of filming. If you don't have to ship out 150 people, plus all their equipment, plus the actors, plus the directors, and all that stuff, right, working around all those schedules, if you don't have to do that, you can just have everybody chill in Leavesden in the UK, right, where they filmed Harry Potter. If you can have them do that, that will save time. So in my opinion, when you look at the later seasons of Game of Thrones, Season 7, Season 8, right, it took a long time for those to come out, and there was only a few dragons. This show has like 10, but they didn't have that giant Leavesden studio with the world's biggest green screen ever. They had to go out and film everything. Then they had to do the post-production, fly everybody out there, and all that stuff I just listed that they don't have to do for House of the Dragon. So ideally, mind you, I'm not in the film industry at all. I don't know anything other than what I've learned from watching TV, reading articles and stuff. That should save, but having that big green screen in Leavesden, that should save about 3 to 5 months of actual filming. Like, it takes 9 months to a year to film, potentially. That should save 3 to 4 months of that. So it should not take longer than, let's say, 7 to 8 months to film, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. Obviously, it could be completely wrong. And please, if you know and you're an insider in the film industry, well, then let me know down below if I'm wrong. But if that's the case, going to the timeline now, if it only takes 8 months to film, the post-production, the CGI, all that stuff, we should be getting House of the Dragon on our screens no later than June of 2024. And people are saying that's 2 years away. Do the math, sweethearts. No, it's not. No, it's not. That's like 1.5 years, but it's going to fly by as soon as they start filming, because then we're going to start seeing all of the castings come out, and that leads me into, 2 potentially leaked castings that were leaked online that I think are utterly ridiculous. I'm going to talk about them here in a couple of seconds, but it's just, when all that stuff starts happening, Season 2 comes here so close. Like, we got a trailer for this show that hadn't even filmed, really done anything for it, in October of last year. Imagine that. October of last year, we had a little teaser trailer. It was just enough to feed us for like 3 months, right? Really like 3 minutes, but still, we got it that early. So I'm pretty sure we should be getting a trailer for House of the Dragon no later, like a teaser trailer for it, probably in the late summer of next year. So solid, we got about 6 months to go of no new potential footage. And not even that long, because they're going to start filming and casting people before then. Speaking of castings, Elizabeth Olsen and freaking Henry Cavill. All right, so I know you know this. We all watch Marvel movies. Elizabeth Olsen murders it as the Scarlet Witch, right? Her accent, not so good, leaves a lot left to be desired, but she kills it in her roles in the WandaVision show and in all the Avengers movies. She's amazing. But when you when you realize she's American, and then you also realize that she's done a lot of big screen acting, and you realize how she's a massive star, and her sisters are the freaking Olsen twins, right? They were billionaires when I was a kid. I don't know if they still are, right? Too big. Her star power is too massive to overshadow. And then also you got to realize she can't do an accent. Like she did a weird Russian Sorkovian accent for the Avengers, but she can't do an English accent. She can't do the type of English accent that needs to be done for the show. So I am not a fan of that casting. Although if she is cast in the show and murders it, I will eat a sock. I will literally eat my words. I 100% am not afraid to admit when I am wrong, right? Ideally, someone else will be playing Alice Rivers or really anyone other than Elizabeth Olsen, because like I said, she's a massive star and she's American. Her accent, in my opinion, it's impossible for an American to do an English accent, and it's impossible for an Englishman or a woman to do an American accent. They sound terrible. They sound like they're either from Boston or Texas, but from like the 1930s. It sounds terrible. It sounds awful. The same thing goes for Americans doing British accents. And then the other casting, all right? Shout out to Elizabeth Olsen, though, because I'm a big fan of her. She's beautiful. And like I said, she's got amazing talent and skill for what her roles have been and what I've seen on screen, right? Like, obviously, she's done some other roles that are outside of the Avengers, but I haven't seen those. So the other casting, Henry Cavill, and this is crazy because it was complete bullshit. It came from a not legitimate source at all. A couple weeks ago saying that Henry Cavill is going to be joining, House of the Dragon Season 2. And then I actually got a rumor on the DMs over on Twitter, speaking of which, make sure you go follow me at Sir_Hunts. The person said that Henry Cavill will be playing Cregan, will be playing Aegon Stark in a flashback that would happen in episode 7. Obviously, that never went down. So those rumors were circling around, and there was also rumors that he'd be joining, like I just mentioned, for Cregan Stark for season 2, or that they may potentially be using him as Aegon the Conqueror for some sort of flashback in season 2, right? But all that's crap. That's nonsense. What's official is that Henry Cavill has left The Witcher. Henry Cavill is The Witcher. They're replacing him with Thor's brother, but it's just not going to work. So a lot of people online were like, holy crap, he's got time in his schedule. He's no longer filming The Witcher season 4 because he's leaving after this season, and this season kind of just finished. We're waiting for season 3 of The Witcher to come out next year. So Henry Cavill, buddy, they're about to start filming. Come and join the show. Now, there's a big difference between Cavill and Elizabeth Olsen. The main thing being is that Cavill is an Englishman, and also he's played not just The Witcher, not just Superman, but a bunch of like time period pieces where his background is exceedingly awesome in those types of things. I would want, if Henry Cavill joined the show, which I'm still like 50% against that, if he did, I want him to play a smaller role, but just own it, right? So that way he's not on screen for that long, and then he's in just like quintessential scenes, right? Hugh Hammer would be a perfect example. He's one of the dragon seeds. I believe he's a bastard of Jaehaerys. When Jaehaerys had a falling out with Alysanne, they had like 3 different, discrepancies in their marriage. Jaehaerys is the old king, the guy we saw in the very first scene of House of the Dragon. I think that he could be, Henry Cavill could play Hugh Hammer, who's a bastard of him, because Hugh Hammer ends up mounting Vermithor relatively easily. Doesn't get burned or anything like that. So that's what made me think that Hugh Hammer's probably a potential bastard of Vermithor. You all let me know who you think Cavill would play, and also who you think Elizabeth Olsen would play down below in the comment section, because I just shared my thoughts, and now I want to know yours. All right, now lastly, before I get out of here, I'm still seeing people like genuinely talking junk about the end of House of the Dragon Season 1, Episode 10, when Aemond kills Lucerys and Arax via Vhagar, and it's an accident. There's still people talking junk about that. So I did my due diligence. I restarted Fire and Blood for the 8th time. I didn't even finish for the 7th time. I just went right back and started. Obviously, I've already read it all the way through 6 times, so it doesn't really matter. But I just wanted to search for more research to make, because I know, as a book reader, that makes actual more than sense. It makes more than the most sense than anything ever, right? Okay, so Daenerys, as an example, Daenerys cannot control her dragons. Like, the TV show showed them flying 3 all side by side, looking perfect like a big old family, but guess what? She only rode Drogon. Now, in the books, Drogon is barely big enough for her to ride right now, because we're still in Dance with Dragons. We're still stuck in 2011. George hasn't released The Winds of Winter. Come on, George, give it to us. We need it. But Daenerys, Drogon is barely big enough for Daenerys to just ride, right? So Drogon is being attacked. She's in the pits of Daznak and the fighting pits of Meereen. She didn't want to open back up the fighting pits, but Hizdahl Zolorak, her husband, convinced her to. She may have potentially been attempted to be poisoned by these honey locusts that Strong Belwas eats, but all that's besides the point. She uses a whip to get on Drogon, and then she flies off. She flies off, but she never comes back. Literally, Drogon, who's been with her since he was a little baby, in an egg, she hatched the egg using a blood magic sacrifice, which made her bond with her dragons even stronger. She literally can't get to turn around and take her back. She can't get him to do that. So because of that, dragons are not a slave. You cannot control your dragons. Vhagar was around for 100 plus years before. Okay, so Vhagar and Meraxes are the dragons of Aegon the Conqueror's sister wives. They were both born on Dragonstone after the Doom of Valyria, but at this point in the time, it's 130 years after Aegon conquered Westeros. So Vhagar is over 130 years old, right? So the connection that he establishes with Aemon, the night that he's basically, Vhagar is sort of getting over the death of her previous rider, Laena, that connection that they have is utterly nothing. It is meaningless. Vhagar allows Aemon to control her, and I'm doing air quotations there, and serve him, but it's not a beneficial relationship. And then another thing, also on this show itself, no excuse if you haven't read the books to know about this, freaking Viserys says multiple times in this series, dragons are power men should never have trifled with. The idea that dragons are under our control, our being the Targaryens and Valyrians, is an illusion. They've been hammering this point home. I can't believe there's even a debate about it. But that's what it is. Dragons are not slaves. They're basically your friend. And even though you've established a connection with them like Daenerys, they still will do what they want, ultimately, and act on your subconscious. This is what happened with Vhagar, Arax, Lucerys, and Aemond. All right, now I know this video seems kind of short. If you want more, please go join my Patreon. That's what my Patreon's for. I upload 20 to 30-minute episodes of my podcast there called Leaks and Lore frequently, multiple times a week. So please go join it for just a couple more bucks if you want more. And then also, I did a live stream just a few days ago on Thursday where I went live talking about the entirety of House of the Dragon Season 1, what happens on the show for an hour. That's linked down below in the description. And then also this Thursday at the same time at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that's my new time slot permanently for live streams until Season 2 comes out and then it changes, right? I'm going to be talking about what happens in the books. And if that's a really crucial one because a lot of people love that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be starting at the very beginning of Fire and Blood. In each one of these live streams, we're going to break down what happens in it. So please consider joining that, which if you're already subscribed, you'll get a notification for it. At least you should if you got them turned on. Thank you for watching. Long night.